That's Nick.
And that's Joseph.
Oh, we're talking about something you did.
Yeah, every year I get to interview a handful of actors, producers, writers, directors who are involved with films that their selective countries have, whose respective countries have selected their film as a nomination for what's now called Best International Feature for the Oscars. So here we are at the 94th edition, and I was one of the interviews I conducted was for Estonia's selection On the Water, which is directed by Peeter Simm, who is actually considered one of Estonia's most notable directors of all time. He's been directing films since the late 70s, early 80s. Most of them are not available in the US, but his latest one, On the Water, is based on a very popular novel. It played at Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival in 2020, and we just had a good conversation about his current film, which is a coming-of-age story about a young boy in 1982, small town in Estonia, and there is a translator on board, so there's a bit of a delay when you interview someone with a translator, but it was an interesting conversation for a director who I have not been able to see his previous films, even though I was trying to before this interview happened. It's an enjoyable coming-of-age tale. It looks great, very much about kind of on the edge of the Soviet thaw, if you will, because it's set just when Brezhnev is leaving office. So I do like the final sequence quite a bit. Interestingly enough, and Peeter Simm corrects me in this interview, I had read that his first film was suppressed by the Soviet government for a decade because Estonia used to be part of the Soviet Union. And he corrected me a little bit on how that went. But technically, he's made this film set then that he couldn't have made then, which I find interesting.
What is it called again?
On the Water.
On the Water.
Not on the waterfront.
All right. So anything else?
No.
Enjoy it.
Well, hello, my name is Nicholas Bell. I'm the chief film critic with Ion Cinema. It's my pleasure today to be able to speak with the esteemed Estonian director, Peeter Simm, whose latest film, On the Water, has been selected, is Estonia's official selection for Best International Feature at the 94th Academy Awards. So congratulations on that. The film, you premiered about a year ago at Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival in competition. And it's my understanding that even before that premiere, you've been attached to this project for quite some time. So if you could tell me how you first came involved with the film, which is an adaptation of a novel by Olavi Rudlane, who's also the screenwriter.
Tunnistama, et see oli produtsentide ettepanek ja romaani lugesin läbi pärast seda, kui ma olin oma nõusoleku andnud ja stsenaariumi läbi lugenud.
This was the proposal of the producers, and Peter read the novel through only after he had accepted the proposal.
Ja ma olin väga üllatunud, et mitte ainult lapsed, vaid ka paljud täiskasvanud olid seda lugenud.
And he was very surprised to see that many adults and children had read the novel earlier.
Aga käivitamine võttis mitu aastat, rohkem kui me olime lootnud.
It took many more years than he expected to start the movie.
Nii et me olime sunnitud välja vahetama peaosatäitja ja poiss, kes veel enne selle rolli peal oli, nihkus antagonisti Pahareti Vahemere.
And they also had to change the main character, and the boy who was supposed to be initially the main character moved on to the role of the antagonist.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I did read that you had to condense the novel quite a bit. There's a lot of characters in the book, and a lot about fishing. And I was interested to read that you had to make an agreement with the producer to be you didn't want them to forbid improvisations.
No kalastamisega oli see probleem, et esimene, mis ma produtsentidele ja operaatorile ütlesin, et tänapäeva vaataja ei ole huvitatud nägemast kalu suremas.
The first thing that he told was that today's viewer doesn't want to see fishes to die on screen.
Ja seda on vähendatud kordades ja kordades kogu filmis.
And there is considerably less of it than it was initially planned.
Aga sisuliselt oli vaja jätta see, et vee peal olek, kalal olek on poisi jaoks seisund, kus ta on vaba vägivallast, silmakirjalikkusest, sellest ängist.
And the main point is that to be on water for the boy, it's a condition where he's free of hypocrisy and free of violence, free.
Ja meie filmigrupis oli inimesi, kes ise väga mäletavad konkreetset aastat, 1982.
In our crew, there were many people who actually remember the year 1982.
Sellepärast, et meil sureb Brežnev ja see oli väike ajavahetus Nõukogude Liidus.
Because Brezhnev died in that year.
Ja viimase aja tendents, mitte ainult välismaa filmides, ka meie omades.
The tendency in the recent movies, both in our movies and in the foreign movies.
Nii et inimeste jaoks, kes seda aega hästi mäletavad, meenutavad need filmid rohkem Põhja-Koread või Hiinat. Sellepärast, et kõik kohad on täis neid punaseid loosungeid ja pilte ja me võtsime vastu otsuse, me ei näita mitte ühtegi.
People who remember these years remember China or North Korea and remember the red flags and slogans, but we took a deliberate decision to show nothing of it.
Mis puutub ajastu näitamisse, siis pean kohe ütlema, et 99% tollastest elanikest elasid märksa paremini kui need inimesed selle tagaõuel.
As far as the era is considered, I must say that 99% of the people lived actually better than those who you saw in the movie.
Aga me oleme väga palju sorry.
No, you're good.
Me oleme väga palju ringi sõitnud mitte ainult neis kohtades, kus me filmisime. Mitte kunagi pole keegi meile öelnud, et me oleme olnud ajastu või aja suhtes ülekohtused või valed.
We have traveled a lot in the places where we shot the movies, and no one has said yet that we're lying about this period of time.
Salaviinamüüjaid, vargaid ja kriminaale jätkus siis on ka praegu, nii et
there were bootleggers and thieves and criminals both today and in that time.
Right? Yeah. I found it interesting because your first film, Ideal Landscape, was banned by the Soviet Union. So I found it interesting. You're making a film now that I think would be hard to have made had you done it in 1982 because of how authentic it seemed, dealing with sexuality and romance and how the tragicomic quality of it is that there are people living their lives, but there's also a darkness underneath it. Do you think this film would have been hard to make in 1982?
Tõlgile mulle, et ta küsib, et arvestades kõike seda pimedust ja seksuaalsust ja kõike seda, mis sul valmis on, et kas sa arvad, et seda filmi oleks 1982. aastal olnud raskem teha, eriti arvestades seda, et sinu esimene film Ideal Maastik oli keelatud nõukogude peal?
keelatud on palju öelda, ta ei olnud tegelikult keelatud.
My first movie was not actually banned, that's too much to say.
Aga oli keelatud mõned teised filmid.
Some other movies were banned.
Aga Ideal Maastik räägib ajast 4 aastat enne seda, kui ma olin sündinud.
Ideal Landscape is a movie about the time 4 years before I was born.
Aga koos ema piimaga ma olin nagu kaasa saanud selle halvava, kõike läbistava hirmutunde.
But I also experienced the penetrating and paralyzing fear of that time.
Aga nii palju olen ma temaga nõus, et see on väike ime, et see film välja tuli.
Kumb film?
Ideal Maastik.
But I agree with you that it was a small miracle that I was allowed to make this Ideal Landscape movie.
ja ma oskan seda seletada ainult sellega, et me üritasime neist inimestest mõista ja tegelikult seob neid filme see, et nii üks kui teine peakarakter üritab jääda inimeseks kõige raskemates oludes.
And the link between the two movies is that in both movies the main character tries to remain human in the most extreme circumstances.
Can we talk about your casting? You had mentioned that you had to change the characters, but Rasmus Ermel, who I think you have said that children are either very good or very bad, and I think you have two very good child performances. So if you can talk about Andres, his casting, and some of the supporting characters, because I know Maria Klinskaya was in your film Georg, and I know you're also familiar with Kalju Oro, the grandparents, before this film. So yeah, if you can just comment about the casting process.
Räägime natuke oma näitlejate valiku protsessist, et ta saab aru, et Klenskaja ja Orrot ta teadsid juba varem, eks ole, ja räägid natuke ka peakarakterist ja kõrvalrollidest. Peakarakteri üle olen ma väga õnnelik ja kõige huvitavam, et meie võtteperiood oli 3 suurt perioodi ja selle aja jooksul poiss kasvas üle 10 sentimeetri.
I'm very happy for my main character who had 3 main shooting periods. And during that time, the boy grew about 10 centimeters of height.
Aga Maria Klenskajaga ma olin ennegi filmi teinud, aga Orro oli mulle küll väga hästi tuttav, võib öelda sõber, aga ma polnud teda mitte kunagi filminud.
I had shot a movie with Maria Klenskaja before. As far as Kalju Orro is concerned, I knew him very well, but I hadn't made a movie with him yet.
Ja kui ma võtsin Orro osasse, siis juhtus suur ime minu praktikas.
And there was a great miracle related to Orro in my practice so far.
Sellepärast, et platsil ilmus näitleja, kellel oli kaasas oma rekvisiit, mis oli õiges ajastus, jootekolmid, vanad raadiod, kõik juba ette valmistatud ja kaasa arvatud poisi peksmise vahendid.
Because for the first time in my practice, an actor appeared to the movie with his own props. Including those that were meant for beating the boy.
Melting stuff and all.
Everything.
Nice. It's a very beautiful looking film, and I know you shot it over seasons to catch the time period of a year. But the production design is really fantastic. And I wanted to know, it has a feel of kind of this era, kind of a Soviet comedies that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with, which I liked. And I know you said that Estonian films from this period kind of informed you, but were there any other, I'm curious about your other inspirations for the look and feel of the film.
Et kus sa said inspiratsiooni selle filmi jaoks, lisaks nõukogude aegsetele filmidele? Võib-olla oma lemmikrežissööri Federico Fellini filmidest.
Maybe from the movies of Federico Fellini.
Sellepärast ma olen õppinud Moskvas ja saanud küllalt konservatiivse klassikalise filmihariduse.
He is my favorite movie director. I have studied in Moscow and I have had a very conservative classical movie education.
Ma olen väga tänulik oma õpetajale Alexander Stolperile, muuseas tema filmist on see katkend, mis on must-valge lendurist.
I am very grateful to my teacher, Alexander Stolper, and from his movie there is this piece which is in black and white about the pilot.
Ja
was that Arabella?
Küsib, et kas on Arabella, ta ei saanud küsimused aru.
See katkend on minu õpetaja filmis, see kus on must-valge. I told there is a piece in the TV set. That's a movie of my teacher.
Oh, yes.
Pilot.
With the wooden leg, yes.
Black and white, yes. And that was a story about real man. That was a wartime film.
Right.
And you know why? What's the problem? Ma ütlen sulle nii, et miks ma tõin Fellini, et dramaturgiliselt see lugu ei olnud üldse see, mida ma olen harjunud tegema. See oli lihtsalt sketšide rida, mida me näeme. That story wasn't absolutely that what I have made all my life. For me, that's very important that we have strong characters, heroes, we have conflict, we have collision, and we have some catharsis in the end.
Right.
But in that story, producers asked me not to move things because there is too many different characters and they are so small and so thin. Like other characters, bigger characters. I'm sorry when my actor is dying in the first 10 minutes, as it happens with a Kailu, with a wooden leg guy.
Yeah.
But producers asked, let's have, next time we do with characters you like, but let's save the characters that we have in a book because people like that. And that's why I think maybe Fellini have also small characters that are only for a minute or two, but you remember them because our characters are very grotesque. Maybe a bit over because ma ei keelanud näitlejatel kunagi välja pakkumast midagi ja minu peamine ülesanne, et nad tunneksid ennast vabalt, tunneksid ennast filmi autoritena.
My main task was that the actors should feel free and should also feel like the authors of the movie.
I did think of Fellini's Amarcord watching this with the kind of comedy of some of the sad comedy of some of the supporting players. But I also thought of Claude Berry's movie, The Two of Us, with the relationship of between Andres and Walter, him kind of needing to find this stability. I also wanted to ask I really liked the Soviet version of ABBA's SOS. Was that always the song you were getting used?
Yeah. Produtsendid leppisid kokku, et me tohime kasutada, originaali nad meile ei lubanud, aga et me tohime kasutada Eesti versiooni, mis minu meelest filmi sobib väga hästi. Avaprodutsendid, meie produtsendid ja avaprodutsendid.
Our producers and the ABBA producers agreed that we should not be allowed to use the original ABBA version, but we are allowed to use that version that you heard, and I think it fits ideally.
Yeah, I think it fits very well. I liked it a lot. After watching it, I also read that you would approach this as a road movie, like filming a road movie. There's a fixed point, but from start to finish, there's a journey. And I think that's also fitting and comes across.
Aga no ütle, et kui see on road movie, siis väga oluline osa selle teekonna on ka ajal, mis nagu muudab seda
kangelast mitte vähem kui need kontaktid, mis on teiste inimestega.
If it's a road movie, then also time has a significant part to play because time also changes the character, not only the contacts that he has.
Right, and I think that fits very well. And I love the final shot where he's kind of walking into the Soviet thaw on the ice, if you will, is how I had looked at it. But I thought that was a very fitting ending and very hopeful for a lot of kind of trouble that comes before. But not to go on and on, but I enjoyed your film immensely. I'm happy to see that it's received this distinction. And I'm also happy to hear that you're already working on another project because this film is 8 years after your last film. So it's nice to see that we'll probably see something else from you in the near future.
Yes, I hope too.
Well, without further ado,
ma tahaksin öelda nõukogude aja kohta, mitte ainult välismaalastel, vaid ka praeguste noorte hulgas on meil levinud natuke vale arusaamine.
See ei ole midagi kompaktset ja homogeenset.
today the youth has a very different and maybe a bit false understanding of the Soviet time. It's not something that you can treat as a whole, nothing homogeneous.
Oli kohutav, eks ole, et terrori aeg oli Stalini aeg.
There was a time of terror during Stalin.
Oli 60. aastate sula, kui tõusis suur Nõukogude kino ja kirjandus ja muusika.
There was the melting time of 1960s where the Soviet literature and cinema were rising.
Ja alates 70. aastatest hakkab niisugune hägustunud akvaariumi.
And since 1970s, a diluted aquarium era begins.
I liked that it's, you know, it's from Andres's perspective in that he's kind of oblivious to the political landscape per se, but I like that there's a scene with the grandparents talking about Brezhnev on his way out and kind of the fear of somebody new isn't better. Exactly. And I think that also comes across quite well. But other than that, do you have any other statements you'd like to make about the film?
Ma tahaksin edastada selle, mis minu õpetaja Aleksander Stolper ütles, et see on väga huvitav, väga vastuoluline, aga tõene, mida ma olen kogenud.
I would like to say something that my teacher Alexander Stolper has said, that it is very controversial but very true what I have experienced.
Ta ütles, et kui film on õnnestunud, siis on selle kaasosalised ja kaasautorid kõik inimesed, kes selle tiitrites on, pluss veel mõned.
He said that if a movie is a success, then everyone who has participated and who is in the titles has its part in it.
Aga kui ta on untsu keeratud, siis sellel on ainult üks süüdlane, see oled sina, režissöör.
But if the movie is a failure, there is just one culprit, and it's you, the director.
Well, this is hardly a failure. So yes, but I do agree with that sentiment as well. And I did want to bring up that you graduated from the VGIK, the Moscow Institute of Cinematography, in this, with, you know, along with a number of very prestigious people. And it's interesting to see how that formality is in your approach, I think, as well. But I think the film is a pleasure to watch. I think it's interesting to go back to this period without it being defined by the sense of terror and from that of a child coming to experience his coming of age. But thank you for your film, and thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it. And I'm definitely looking forward to what you have next.
Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your words.